In this movie, we're going to draw these little square ornaments that appear on either side of our artwork. And we're going to do so using the rounded rectangle tool. And then in the next movie, we'll align them into place. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my illustration in progress, which I've called centeredredstar.ai. And I'll scroll up to somewhere over here on the left-hand side of the graphic. Doesn't really matter where, because we're not necessarily going to draw our rounded rectangles in the right place right off the bat. All right, now what I'd like you to do is switch to the rounded rectangle tool. Now, the only difference between the rounded rectangle tool and the rectangle tool is the rectangle tool allows you to draw rectangles and squares, and the rounded rectangle tool, you can do exactly the same thing, but you can also round off the corners. So I'm going to go ahead and select the tool by clicking on it, of course, and then I'll drag with the tool in order to draw a rectangle. So here's what's going on. Imagine I'm just using the rectangle tool, or this tool, doesn't matter. As I'm dragging with the tool, I can press the space bar in order to move the shape to a different location on the fly. Then I can release the space bar and continue sizing the graphic like so. If I press the shift key, I will create a perfect square, albeit with rounded corners in this case. And by the way, you have to keep that shift key down until you're done drawing. So notice if I release the shift key, then I end up getting a rectangle again. If you want to draw the rectangle from the center outwards, you press the Alt key or the Option key on the fly like so. And then if you release Alt or Option, you go back to the corner-to-corner metaphor. And then finally, here's the big difference between the regular rectangle tool and the rounded rectangle tool. If you want to increase the roundness of the corners, and I'll make my shape bigger so you can see this happen, then you press the up arrow key, and you can even press and hold the up arrow key in order to make the process happen more quickly. If you want to increase the sharpness of the corners, then you press the down arrow key, or in my case, I'm pressing and holding the down arrow key like so. All right, anyway, I just want to show you everything that's going on with the tool. I'm going to get rid of the shape by pressing the backspace key. I happen to know the exact dimensions of the shapes that I'm looking for. And anytime that is the case, with any of these tools, by the way, you click with the tool inside the document window, and that's going to go ahead and bring up a dialog box of numerical settings. And that works with the rectangle tool, rounded rectangle, ellipse, polygon, star as well. Works a little differently, as we'll see, where the flare tool is concerned. But in my case, I'm looking for a width value of 72 and a height value of 72 as well. So 72 points by 72 points. And I want the corner radius to be 9 points. Now, once you've established a square, incidentally, or any other dimension, but it's easier to understand with the square, you can turn on this link right here, and then you can change a value. For example, I might change the width to 100 points, and that's going to change the height to 100 points as well. But if I were to turn off the chain for a moment, and then I set the height to 200 points, for example, now I'll turn the chain back on. So I've got a shape that's 100 points by 200 points. If I change the width value, let's say to 50 points, then that's going to reduce the height value to 100 points because Illustrator is trying to maintain the proportions of the shape. Just want you to see what's going on there where that chain is concerned. Anyway, I'm going to turn it off because I want to create a square. 72 by 72, a corner radius of 9 points. I just happen to know this from working with this graphic in the past. And I'll go ahead and click OK in order to create that shape. And now I'm going to increase the line weight by clicking on the down pointing arrowhead up here in the control panel and selecting 10 points like so. All right, now let's draw another one by once again clicking inside the document window. This time, because I want another square, I can turn on the chain icon. And I'll change the width value to 98. That changes the height value as well to 98 points. And then I'm going to raise the corner radius value to 18 points and click OK. And I end up with this shape here. The stroke is too thick, so I'll go up to the line weight value up here in the control panel, and I'll switch it from 10 point to 4 point like so. All right, that shouldn't be in front, however, so I'm going to go ahead and send the shape to back. And by the way, I've made a terrible mistake here. I've been working on the tattoo layer, which I don't want to do. I should be working on this drawing layer here. So I've got to make a couple of modifications. I'm going to switch to my selection tool, and I'm going to partially marquee these two shapes so that they're both selected. Notice that I have this little square here inside the layers panel. That indicates all of the selected objects inside the document. If I want to move them to a different layer, I just take that square and I drag it to a different layer like so, and that goes ahead and moves those two objects to the drawing layer. And I can see that they're now in the drawing layer because previously they had green anchor points and outlines to indicate that they were part of this green layer. And now they're part of the blue layer is indicated by the fact that they have these blue segments and anchor points. All right, now if I twirl open this layer like so, I can see that the big path is in front of the little path. That's not what I'm looking for. So what I'm going to do is click off the shapes to deselect them, and then click on the larger of the two paths. And I want to send it all the way back in the stack. And I can make that happen by right-clicking on the shape, which brings up the shortcut menu. And then I'll choose Arrange, and I'll choose Send to Back. And that will send the shape to the back of the active layer. And now I've got more or less the effect I'm looking for. Of course, the alignment's not right. Ignore that for a moment. Okay, one more thing I want to do. I'm going to click on this forward shape and move it down a little bit, just so we can keep better track of it. See that red line that cuts through the shape? I want to add that red line on the inside of the shape right here. So I'm going to switch my drawing mode from Draw Normal down here at the bottom of the toolbox to this final item, Draw Inside, so that I can draw a line inside of this shape. And notice that I get my dotted corners, as you see here. Next, I'll go ahead and grab my Line tool, which might require me to select whichever tool is visible here, and then select Line Segment tool from the flyout menu. And I will align my cursor with that center point. So, by the way, rectangles and ellipses automatically get center points inside Illustrator. I'll go ahead and align my cursor with that center point, and I will begin dragging like so, and then I'll press, as I'm dragging, I'll press the Alt key so that I'm dragging a line from the center outward. That would be the Option key on the Mac. I'll also press the Shift key so that I have a diagonal line like so. So I've got both the Shift and Alt keys down. If you're working on a Mac, you should have the Shift and Option keys down. And drag your line so it's larger than the shape like so. Now you can see that the line indeed appears inside of the shape. Now I want it to be a different color, so I'll go ahead and click on this second color swatch. Notice we have one color swatch up here in the control panel that has a slash through it showing me that there is no fill associated with this line. The second one tells me the stroke, the second swatch right there. So I'll click on it to bring up the swatches panel, and I'll switch to CMYK red in order to create this effect here. All right, now I'll press the Escape key in order to hide that panel. Press the V key to switch back to my black arrow tool and click off the shape, and just make sure that everything's back to normal. I'll click on the Draw Normal icon down here at the bottom of the toolbox. And now you know how to draw any old rectangle or rounded rectangle inside Illustrator. In the next exercise, I'll show you yet another method for aligning these shapes into place.